Thanks very much. Some really great presentations. My name is Neil Freshwater with VELUX in GB in Ireland. I suppose I had a broad question around, this seems like it's an emerging field of study. I think the first presentation you talked about some early studies going back to the 1970s, but it's clearly a sort of very much an emerging group. I suppose my sort of broad question, and this is really just to sort of add something to it, is in terms of sort of, I suppose, recreating or simulating what we see out of the window, whether that's using a mirror or some other means. Is there much sort of research in that? And obviously it's a really broad overview that you've provided, and particularly on some of the early things about how our mind and our eyes and our brains respond to visual stimuli. I'm just wondering, in terms of sort of recreating that in terms of in difficult situations. The reason I'm thinking about it was purely personal. I'm rearranging the desk in my home study, and I will no longer have my nice view of the countryside, and I've sort of been reflecting on it. But I'm thinking at a broader stage, is there something around that, and how you can, I suppose, recreate where you maybe don't have access to a window? How can you recreate some of those positive benefits in the context and of a challenging situation, using mirrors or whatever? So.
Well, I think it's a very active area of research right now. A lot of people would like to be able to make the perfect window replacement and claim the health benefits that are seen from real windows. I would argue that that is just a visual stimulus, and that there are all those other layers of stimulus which are not being provided. So it basically, from my point of view, becomes more of a placebo. It will make you feel good about working in your basement, perhaps better. There was a very extended series of studies done by Peter Kahn at the University of Washington 10 or 15 years ago. It's included in a book called Technological Nature, where he compared real views to a webcam version of the same view covering that window with a big screen TV versus simply a curtain blocking it all out. In general, people much preferred the video webcam to nothing, but they greatly preferred the real window over the video webcam, and none of the cognitive benefits that were associated with the real window translated to the webcam. So that's the most rigorous study I know of. There's another series of very interesting studies done in Japan comparing the experience of forest bathing, where they took a group of Japanese executives up into the forest and they put them in a tent. And the two variables were tent with the wall down, but they still had the same oral environment, visual. They could hear the birds, they could smell the dirt on the ground, but they simply couldn't see the view, had the same temperature. And again, they found considerable improvements in physiology, such as heart rate variability and other metrics, with the full visual exposure. So why is that? As best I can tell from my reading, it's because humans are complex and there are many interactions going on beyond just our visual experience. Our visual experience is the most conscious part of our life. We can recall it, we dream about it, we can name it. But all the other levels that are going on at a subconscious level. We're not processing it, we're not remembering it, but we're seeing the benefits. So, to answer your question, I would get a new office.
Yeah, that's a very good answer, I would say. Yeah. No, windows are best, great.
Anyone else would like to comment? Right, yeah, please, next question here.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for the talk, it was fantastic. I think my question is around, I'm working in practice, so the challenge of actually getting post-occupancy information full stop. And you all show that there's limitations to actually how much simulation and digital can actually inform, and the importance of actually having the data collected after construction. So my question is maybe also, how can is there a way that a lot of the topics that you're talking about view quality, well-being, how can that be inputted into post-occupancy evaluation? Because from my experience, everything at the moment is just focused on technical data, so energy consumption, energy savings, heat, etc. But none of this qualitative or kind of human aspect, no one's yet, I think, considered actually how that can go into the post-occupancy evaluation of buildings, so we can actually learn. Because at the moment it's all just technical, and I think the last presentation showed that actually that isn't actually what we should be focused on.
Yeah, so indeed, I was also thinking, so Sneha, maybe your case study was a perfect example here, so can you reply?
Yeah, thanks for this question. I think it is a very important point. Sorry, I'm hearing myself. Yes. But I also want to highlight doing post-occupancy studies are quite challenging. I think this study that we did, we were only managed to do it because of the community engagement that we had there, and the community was equally interested in knowing and understanding how their well-being can be impacted by the building elements around them. So it helped us a lot to get through that study because of that community engagement. But I guess post-occupancy evaluation are equally important, and there needs to be involvement of more sensors. For example, the study that we did were mainly interview-based, but going forward, we also want to integrate more sensors so we can get also quantitative data out of it, and then can inform the practice through our post-occupancy evaluation. So I would say, yeah, it's a long way, it's a long road to take, but it's, yes, it's indeed a very crucial one.
Yeah, I can also maybe give a short comment. So yeah, I kind of agree in a sense that I think it's only possible by combining both some kind of questionnaires on their occupant subjective feelings with some kind of data, because neither of those independently can give us all the information. Also, we know that, or there is no information actually all there. As we just mentioned, sometimes what people consciously feel is not the same as how they really are, and there are some things that we can measure on top of what they are able to tell us. So it's only really with careful combination of both measurement of both environment parameters and physiological parameters, with interviewing them, that we can hope to get some clear picture.
Yeah, and I think this actually also complicates the thing, like the research. Because what also Sneha showed was that the visual comfort models did not always match with the subjective responses that the elderly people gave in the interviews. There's a question online. Yeah.
Great. This is a question for the panel. What are your thoughts on the recent changes to view to outside metrics in green building rating systems, quantitative and qualitative? And do the updates reflect recent view research?
I guess I could go.
So that's a long question.
Yeah, it's a bit of a loaded question. I'll do my best. I mean, so like it's sort of an ever-evolving sort of field, because for a long time we sort of knew about the benefits of window view, but we didn't necessarily know how to translate those into sort of metrics. And slowly, but sort of what we did within our study was like when we sort of looked at different types of standards, they would tend to like quantify or describe specific pieces of the puzzle. But when you sort of collate them together, it sort of gives you a bigger picture. And I think green building standards obviously takes it a little bit further, because there's some things in there which are a little bit more like specialized knowledge that you need to integrate it into the building. So for example, one thing was circadian lighting, which obviously goes a little bit step further on photopic lux, you know, like melotopic lux or EML, for example. And I think with window view, a lot of these things, such as like the horizontal layers, actually came from like a study in the 60s by Marcus, where basically he was describing these view layers sort of qualitatively in terms of photographs, and actually this camouflaging effect he described, about which I refer to, is actually he used a zebra, and he basically put like the louvers going in the same pattern as the zebra just to describe that. So obviously, like, you can describe view quality, not with necessarily numbers, but obviously for standardization, you really do need some numbers to sort of support things. So when you translate things from standard to standard, things make a little bit more sense. And what we found in green building standards is actually the description of the credits assigned to view quality tended to be the same. So it's actually for visual relief or to avoid visual strain, which I guess broadly refers to the thing we were talking about earlier about myopia. So there is a little bit of similarity beyond them, but I do see that they are evolving a little bit more to be a little bit more holistic. So it is, the needle is slightly going in the right direction.
Well, I'd like to amplify upon that, which is we seem to be really obsessed at the moment of having metrics that are quantified where we can check off performance level. And I'd like to offer the alternative from Japanese culture, where it seems that they have 22 different types of words for views, like Eskimos purportedly have 22 different types of words for snow. So there are borrowed views, there are captured views, there are miniaturized views. I don't know the full vocabulary, but having those concepts allow people to discuss it, allow people to envision it as part of their space or look for opportunities. And so I'm not sure that the solution to better views is improving our metrics in progressively more precise ways, but I would say that we can learn a lot from the type of studies Sneha was doing and of interviewing people and simply learning from their experience and looking for insight from those kinds of on-site post-occupancy evaluations, not to get, did we meet performance metrics, but what can we learn?
Yeah. I think this also touches upon the very first keynote session that we had when we talked about acceptable thresholds again, and then the healthy one. So we need to verify whatever we put in standards, and we mention numbers that also fits with subjective responses of people, occupants. Unfortunately, time's up. So if you still have questions for them, please make sure that you find them during the break. So we have 30 minutes break now, again there. But afterwards, 4:15 sharp, again, we will start here in this main stage with a session on science and architecture, and there will be 2 very inspiring talks again. So I hope to see you back at 4:15. Thanks. Thank you once more.